Hello everybody. I am looking for. I can see him. There you are, Graham. If you just put your hand up, buddy. Maybe you already have. No, I can see no request. If you put your hand up, I'll bring you up on stage. Put your hand up, I'll bring you up on stage. Got a slight technical issue. Could I just check whether other people, Apex, could maybe you put your hand up and I can just check whether you're able to put your hand up to speak.
Yeah, I can hear you okay, matey.
Yeah, well, you've got server
Normally,
rights actually, so
yeah, but
you can bring
normally you can
yourself.
just click on someone's name and then invite to stage. Let me just double check.
Here we go.
Hmm.
Here we go. I've invited him.
Okay, I'll just go back down to the stage.
You
Quick
can
sec.
set up if you want, but no
Are you sure?
pressure.
Yeah, no problem. No,
Yeah.
I'm here.
I've got
Let's go.
3 AMAs today, so I'm like looking for every angle to try and shirk some of the floor. So otherwise,
Just don't ask Synergy Solutions, okay?
yeah.
I should have that one down. To be fair, now.
Yeah, well, to be fair, when I asked, I was quite surprised. I thought you were having a moment because you've been involved in sort of the partnership meetings as well.
I mean, to be honest, I'd ran home. I was out of breath. I had my 2-year-old climbing all over me, and then I got dropped with that question, and I was thinking, oh crap. I had a complete blank out moment where where your brain just won't work for a quick second, and I thought, get me started, and then as soon as you started speaking about it, I thought I can't interrupt now, but yeah, I knew exactly what we were talking about. So thanks for helping me out on that one. Right, okay, so it's GYD79.
Yeah, here he is.
He's here.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
I hear you perfectly. How are you, Graham?
Yes, very well, thank you. Very well. In the UK for the first time in a while, so
Oh,
local.
no. Nice, very good, very good. But it's quite sunny today, isn't it? So, are you up in the Midlands or are you down south?
No, I'm in London. I'm in London.
London. Very good,
Welcome.
very good. Just to introduce you, so Apex isn't he's not a real bird. That's just an alias, but he's our Millionaires Club manager. Actually, it's his baby, and that's our environment where other like normally a project that maybe wants to come and pitch to our investors. We're not like one of these communities where people get shot for mentioning another project. Actually, we have sort of like an investors environment where other projects come and pitch to them. Sometimes they give giveaways, freebies, and also we have a mental health and life coach who does monthly sessions, which is judging by many of our communities, much needed for sure. It's a great investment, and there's lots of other stuff as well in there. So there's lots of like alpha early entry. So for instance, our Infinity whitelist is predominantly made up from the members of that community, actually the most loyal sort of investors within the protocol already. So Apex, just to introduce him, he manages that side of the organisation.
Very good. Very nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
Cool. So the news went out about 25 minutes ago. So we've been there's still people coming in. It's always like this, isn't it, for the first 10 minutes of an AMA? But we're going to crack on because we've got a really busy day, and Graham's been kind enough to give us some of his time. He's a very busy man as well. In terms of what we're going to run through today, so obviously we've got kind of two things going on. There's MDB, the ecosystem as an organisation, and also our trust fund investments, and then we also have Infinity, which comes with it, the Infinity Fund also. The pre-sale on the 13th of September. Quickest way to get into pre-sale is to join the Millionaires Club. Look for Millionaires Club requirements in general chat and you'll be able to find that. It doesn't actually cost you anything to join the Millionaires Club. You just have to own a certain amount of MDB, and that is your MDB, right? You don't lose it or anything like that. You don't have to give it up, and you can also gain from that obviously as well. And then we'll be launching Infinity on the 18th. So on our general journey across the industry and related organisations, we obviously met Graham and we met the team over at Freeway. We've got a very professional organisation, well established, huge sums of money, good strong infrastructure that sits behind it, and are very resilient as well, and also a fantastic set of products. In fact, I think one of the things that we like about Freeways is that I won't steal your thunder, Graham. Is just L1s, L2s, and also stables. So you can kind of split your strategies within the same ecosystem, whilst it's still sort of safe, reliable returns as well. So that really brought us to this. So we've been talking to the guys for the last couple of weeks, and we've ultimately made a decision that we'll be investing both from the trust fund and also the Infinity Fund. I think on a risk scale, it's very low risk versus some other investments that you see within DeFi. So we see Freeway as a fantastic way of shoring up actually that fund, giving it very much a sort of stable foundation, and we'll probably accept a little bit more risk in other areas for potentially higher returns, but then look to Freeway to be a sizable investment that offers, like I say, some base structure. So our plan today, I'll do a brief introduction of MDB. I won't go on all day because we've got a long day today with 3 AMAs, and then we'll introduce Graham, and very keen already questions in the chat, Graham. I don't know if you saw it, but there was people already pinging stuff that they want to ask Graham when he's here. So if you can give an overview, and then we'll let them at you, and we'll handle a load of questions from the community, and then we'll talk a bit about the partnership and the plan going forward, and that should wrap us up quite nicely. How's that, Graham?
Yeah, that's great. Sounds perfect.
Very good. So maybe before I introduce I'm always conscious, especially over the last week or so, we've had a lot of new people coming into MDB for various reasons. We've had a couple of rescue projects, and also many new holders just coming into the ecosystem and new partnerships. I'll give an overview of MDBs if you don't know MDB. So apologies to people that have heard it. Maybe you can make a cup of coffee if you've heard it 100 times. But maybe first of all, Graham, it'd be great to just maybe get sort of that high level introduction of you first, and then we'll go into more into Freeway after we've done the MDB overview, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure thing. So I got myself into the crypto space in 2017, so not too long ago, but not too recently either. And before that, a lot of the work that I did was essentially management consultancy with quite large legal and financial firms. So there was a lot of attention to detail on things like regulatory and compliance. But at the same time, there was always a big demand for moving these large firms into a sort of more modern operating basis, whether that was back in my sort of techie days, back in 1999 and 2000, where it was essentially bringing them online full stop and giving them VPN connections so they can work away from the office or whatever. It quickly became, how do we market to our customers and for new customers online in a fully compliant way, and that was sort of a joint effort of basically working with their marketing department and their compliance department, bridging it nicely so that they could do things that were pushing and outside of the box and interesting and sort of noticeable by their customers and potential new customers, but at the same time was fully compliant. And there was quite a lot of battling in there, and that normally came down to knowing the regulations just as well as the compliance team, and also fully understanding what the marketing teams wants to do. So that worked very well, and I worked with a couple of very large firms in London, and who eventually merged, actually, completely randomly. And at that point, we decided to build a sort of regulatable customer service platform for these large firms to essentially use like as a software as a service thing. And we were really looking at the blockchain aspect because we could get the big firms to essentially verify and certify for each other that the compliant regulatory actions had taken place at a certain time and date. And by the time we were building that and really getting into it, we realized the scope of the technology was much more than a boring, CRM basically for financial firms. And so we pivoted entirely and decided that we wanted to build something very cool, something that would be new and exciting within the existing financial system. So, we had a big Rolodex of everyone we knew. So we quickly got a really big team of traditional finance advisors together, actually, more traditional finance than anything else, because we already had a sort of tech team, and went to town on something called Orbit, which became Freeway. And initially we were looking at offering a gold-based security token that would grow over time as people used it. And we ended up realizing that the regulatory frameworks were so immature that we had a window to jump in and do something even bigger. So that's why we then connected certain aspects of wealth creation into our ecosystem and then build out a tokenized ecosystem within just outside of the regulatory frameworks that would allow us to offer it to everyone straight away. And Freeway was born with its superchargers, which are an unregulated token ecosystem outside of the US. It's technically not tokenized in the US, and we built it out and offered pretty amazing rewards within our supercharger ecosystem as a result. And we finalized a partnership with a fully regulated brokerage to custody our own digital and fiat assets, and that was in November, I think, 2020. And we'd let some. We did a sort of very private beta after launching a utility token, the Freeway token, the year before, where we took about $10 million of purchases. So users came and bought $10 million of superchargers. It all went very well, and then from November until now, we've grown from 10 million to 152 million, I think, at the time of writing. Of course, if crypto was still at its height, we'd be talking more like 250 or 300 million. But so it's good. So we're sort of the new kid on the block as far as people consider staking platforms. We've grown very quickly, but we're also very, very scalable because of how we built this thing foundationally. So we're ready to become the leading platform, essentially. Supercharger is one piece of that. There's a new set of products that are coming with lots of user protections and assurances, which is really there to replace the likes of Celsius, so that there's somewhere where a user really has assurance that their deposits are, except in our case, we're working for a 98% assurance on deposits, which is pretty damn good, with pretty high rewards still. So we'll have the two options. So we'll have the virtual sort of slightly more esoteric superchargers with the much higher reward rates, but we'll also have a set of products where there's lots of legal obligations to get your crypto deposits back, and everything's done in a way that makes sure that people can't really lose their money. So that's kind of where Freeway came from, and we're on that kind of sort of humanitarian drive, really, which I think a lot of good crypto projects come from. They have an ideology that the financial system is a bit too it's too weighted towards the service provider and the people that know what they're doing, and not for the end user. So we're really there to sort of push that light and let people know that they can have a fairer deal with us. Anyway, that's probably too much, but there you go.
No, brilliant. Thanks for the overview, Graham. We've got already piles of questions flying in, but I think before we jump into that, I'll just give an overview of MDBs and ecosystems. So MDB was founded not that long ago. I suppose an Alcorn or a DeFi people are starting to talk about and to us as if we've been around for years, which is probably a reflection of maybe the short life of many projects. But we launched on April 29th. Really, we started with one token, which is built upon this system that we call Capital Synergy. We went to the market, we raised 1.8 million, split that into 5 parts trust fund, 1 part liquidity, and ultimately launched a token that leverages this system where if it's extremely bearish, then the trust fund can use its own earnings, the earnings come both from interest from its own investments, but then also buy and sell taxes of the token. So it's a heavily backed token. You pay a tax to join, you pay a tax to leave, but you have this chunky machine behind you. And the idea is that it tackles lots of the problems that you see within DeFi to deliver long-term sustainable growth. And really what I mean by that is when you saw the market was very difficult after some of the recent crises that we saw, you saw our burn rate was just really, really extreme because we call it the Phoenix. The trust fund effectively is able to use the Phoenix to then buy up large amounts of our own supply, burning it out of existence, which is the reason why we've gone from sort of 1 billion tokens at launch only at the end of April down to, I think today, 862 million tokens in circulation. So coming down really quick. That burn has slowed down naturally, as over the last sort of 5-6 weeks you've seen our price sort of times 4 plus over the last 5-6 weeks, and you've seen that come down, which is just part of the natural process. And really, MDB is the product of lots of thinking about the major things that kill projects. So there's huge opportunity within crypto. It's hugely efficient in terms of bringing people together, pooling funds, and then being able to execute those funds for the joint benefit of everybody. But it still has a very high failure rate, and really MDB was designed to overcome some of those major challenges. So even in the worst of market conditions, MDB was designed to thrive even in those conditions. And whilst it's been very difficult over the last few months, it's also been a fantastic opportunity for us to be stress tested more than probably anyone ever expected, and to be able to demonstrate the mechanics of the protocol really working. So today we have around about, I think today, because we've got we've got quite a bit of exposure to BNB and ETH in our investments. So the rise across the two over the last couple of days probably puts us today at around about 2.2 million in funds, but we have also bought and burnt back. We've burnt in today's money around about $1.4 million of our own supply, and like I say, that supply coming down very quickly, and that's really the first step. And then we've got Xenu is our D app, and that's where our other assets sit. So at the moment we have 3 assets within the system. We've got 2 stable backed assets, and then we have MDB, which is a token. The stable backed assets, slightly different profiles, won't go into all the details. And then we have Infinity, which is launching next week. So that's much higher reward potential, like huge swings in terms of the volatility potential, but also that naturally comes with an element of risk. So if we were a banking organisation, we would say that MDB is like buying shares in the bank. Everything we do helps the organisation to grow. Just buying some very safe bonds is like buying the stable backed assets, and then we're going to have the trading app that says beware, you can lose money doing this, but also there's huge potential for gains, and that really is Infinity. And then we have B2B applications as well, so we acquire other projects that reach or find themselves in difficult circumstances, and we also provide B2B services. So we, for instance, use our own stable backed asset as a pair, something that we could talk to Graham about over time. They're paired to BUSD, I think, for their Freeway token. They could be paired to MDB Plus, which would always be appreciating over time. It would be very valuable for their protocol. And we also use MDB Plus as a utility for other projects. We provide NFT as a service, end to end. Announcements coming very soon on that front, and we also a few other business services that we provide also off the back of those. And that's really our ecosystem. It's designed to be very difficult to break, which has been demonstrated over the last few months. But it's also designed, even in difficult times, to grow sustainably, and in much better times to grow exponentially over time. That's the mathematics of the model and the way it's designed. So that's MDB in a nutshell. I should say maybe just one note about the team. If you're new here, we are a docs team. We're from the UK. You can probably hear that in my voice. and with lots of business experience. So I've worked both in Fortune 500 businesses and around startup space, around technologies, energy and sustainability, additive manufacturing, supply chain. I ran an electric vehicle charging business for a couple of years across a few markets. So I've got varied experience, and now obviously a crash course in crypto over the last 6 months. So that's kind of us, the team, the organisation. I think probably 95% of people that are here probably know that story, so apologies for having to hear it again, but at least we've covered that off. Cool. Did I miss anything, Apex?
Not really, mate. You was succinct as you normally are. Absolutely brilliant. Good job, mate.
So Graham, you gave a bit of an introduction there to sort of yourself and the system and the way it works. I wonder, without being too tedious, because we've got a couple of questions already coming in the chat that are quite specific about you guys and the ecosystem. Our team are always like an absolute hawk on anything that we invest in. So, I'm sure they've got a million questions. I wonder if you'd be able to just maybe just expand slightly more, Graham, on the structure. If I'm a user, how I invest in Freeway, how the superchargers work, and also how that new product set that's coming on board works, and how it's different from what you've got today.
Yeah, no problem. So one of the things that happens when you get a bit bigger is you have to be super careful, and you have your legal and compliance team tell you what you can and can't say. So every now and again, I'll use words, and they're kind of very specific. So if it sounds like it's the wrong word for what I'm saying, it's only because legally I have to. Okay, so the way the superchargers work, let's start with them. They're not considered financial instruments. Let's get that out of the way. So it's an unregulated property, essentially. So people can come and buy them. Outside of the US, they can come and buy them with crypto or fiat, but it needs to be enough fiat for our bank to accept it, type thing. We can take crypto. And then what happens is technically users are buying the superchargers, and the superchargers are a virtual simulation of various other assets. And you buy them, and then we basically keep giving you rewards in more and more superchargers until you want to sell them, at which point we buy them back. Now, legally, we don't have any obligation to buy them back. However, I think we can all simply see that the day we didn't buy them back would be the end of the project. So what we had to do, the cost for us and for the user was this kind of disconnect between the two, and requiring trust on the user's behalf, which has significantly slowed down how quickly we could grow, which is why we've grown from sort of 10 million to 150 million, I think, not 10 million to 2 billion, which maybe if the crypto markets continue to go well, then maybe it would have done that. So that's the first thing. That's the superchargers. Now, I have to be very careful how I connect the dots here, but because when somebody purchases superchargers, that's essentially revenue for Freeway. And so Freeway can do what it wants with the revenue. It's very important to understand. Now, Freeway's number one source of revenue is actually trading revenues, because we take almost all of our assets and we put them in custody with our regulated brokerage partner, who executes trades using Freeway's algorithms. So we do trading in the Forex markets. We don't rely on the crypto markets in any way. I think this is the one big mistake that a lot of lending platforms and staking platforms have done in the past, where they're trying to figure out how they could make money with the money that they have so they can give rewards back to their users. And most of them are relying only on the crypto markets, which is great when the crypto markets are going well. And in your case, you guys have been smart enough to figure out a way to make money irrespective of how the crypto markets perform, which is obviously very unique. There's not very many people doing that. And so that's why there's quite a synergy, I think, between us, because that's exactly what Freeway's done. We've gone, well, if the crypto markets aren't doing so well, then you can't rely on them for your revenues, and we don't rely on them at all. But of course, if the crypto market's going very, very well, it's very important that you're holding those assets if it's going very, very well, because you want to see the benefit of that as well. So our model for our revenues, that's how it works. So we trade a lot in Forex. and that's how Freeway makes its revenues. Now, it's very important to realize that's completely disconnected to the superchargers from a legal perspective. Now, moving on to the second set of products, which is coming very soon. Initially, it'll just be sort of privately offered outside of the US, and then hopefully in about 6 weeks, it'll be available to accredited investors in the US. But we'll have to see. What we did was we took the sort of biggest pain point of the superchargers, which is there's no legal obligation to buy them back after you've sold them. And we figured out, basically having watched all the other staking platforms that involve lending, make mistakes and not do so well, we've sort of figured out how to give a user something that they really need and want, which is assurance. So for us, what we've done is we've allowed, at the moment it's just crypto, we can't do it with anything else, but you'll be able to lend Freeway your crypto. We will then essentially utilize it in a way that can be stable coins, Bitcoin or Ether at the moment. We will take it and we will never expose that money that you lend us to more than 2% risk. So that's the thing to understand. So because we'll only do it from just saying, hey, we won't risk your money. We'll also have the brokerage that holds our assets certify and verify that all executions on our assets are never over more than 2% risk. So essentially a 2% stop loss on anything we're doing. And that is a pretty powerful way to say to someone, you've got $100, you're going to get $98 back no matter what happens. And, but the reward rates are significantly higher. So we plan 6 to 9% on Ether and Bitcoin and 10 to 15% on stables. So that's how they work. Any questions on that? Happy to answer.
Yeah, I've got a quick one if you don't mind, Graham. So, obviously, on the first piece, you were talking about trading forex as a revenue stream. So the first question is just in terms of I guess the question would be about the actual trading. So the people who trade on that behalf, what's their kind of recognition and skill set? And then the other question is, in terms of crypto, are you also trading ETH, Bitcoin, and well, not stable, but are you also trading with the cryptos as well?
Yeah, so we don't actually trade with any crypto at all. We stick in our lane, which is the forex markets. It's so liquid. It's so, and the long track record of our algos allows us to have the confidence to take and scale the business to many billions before we have to sort of worry, because these algos have been used to trade billions before. So where the trading comes from, the algorithms have been around for about 15 years and been refined. It's close personal relationships with the original developers of those algorithms, and we essentially have like an exclusivity agreement for our use case where the algos are used for Freeway to generate more and more revenues. We have a deal with the fully regulated brokerage as well, and with the guys that came up with the algos, we're essentially becoming Freeway's algos, so that exclusively we're all sort of benefiting from Freeway's growth. The algorithm developers, of course, will get something for their performance, and the brokerage, prime brokerages make their money by assigning leverage and allowing for maximized trading volume, so they can make money on commissions and spreads. In Freeway's case, we trade between $3 and $5 billion a day in the forex markets. So that's a lot of volume, so it's good for commissions and spreads for the brokerage. And the performance, we did do a trading audit. We got probably the leading FX trading, high frequency trading auditors, ACA Global, to verify our trading data, which they verified, and we had on the money that we were trading in 2020, which to be fair is lower than what we are trading now, obviously. We had 112% total performance on that which was good. We're hoping to do a 6-month check, in the first 6 months of 22. This next six or 7 weeks, I hope. But it's such a huge amount of trading data. It obviously takes its time to be analysed and audited. So, but yeah, that'll give you an idea, and it's good because it's not in the crypto markets, so it's one less factor.
Just one more, hopefully not a stupid question. So, obviously, you can't trade Bitcoin in the forex market unless you off-ramp that in some way. So, if I, as an investor, through the lens of an investor, if I deposit, say, $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, can you just talk me through exactly what happens at that point? Do you guys, are you off-ramping that into fiat for you to be able to trade? Or how does that work?
So on the superchargers, when you buy them, the money comes to us as revenue. If it's Bitcoin, we pretty much just kind of sit on it, and with the brokerage, and the brokerage as a result can go off and obtain more credit as a brokerage to apply to our forex trading.
Yeah.
It's all segregated and separated, but yeah, you see, you have to do it that way. Otherwise, if Bitcoin suddenly tripled in value, you would have exposure to that, a negative exposure to that if you actually sold it. Now, with our assets, with Freeway's assets, we actually don't hold any stable coins because they essentially have systemic risk from being issued by private companies, right? So we do. Any time that we take revenue as in a stable coin, we do actually exchange it to fiat because it just makes sense.
Understood. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah, I think they're really good questions as well. There's a few questions in the chat. So the first question from Lee Beef is one of our investors from Australia. He's got two questions. First question is, does Freeway give exposure to ETH in the ETH supercharge? I think I could answer this. Maybe Graham, you tell me if I'm wrong. Because and I hope I'm not wrong. So our strategy, for instance, is that we're splitting 50% stable, 50% ETH. So that would mean that if you earn 43% over a year across those two, say round numbers, it was 100k, and ETH had doubled in value, then you would have 2 times the value of what you put into ETH, plus 43% on top, whereas on your stable side, you would have just 43% on top. But then also the opposite would apply. So if ETH halved in value, you would have half the value of your original ETH plus 43%, which is almost, hedging against that downside risk, but you would still have your half stable plus your 43% over the year. Is that correct, Graham?
Yeah, exactly. So the superchargers are just denominated in whatever you want. So if you have 100 Bitcoin at the end of the year, and you're making the 43%, you'll have 143 Bitcoin. However much the Bitcoin has gone up or down, hopefully for everyone it's gone up, right? But
so best case scenario is you get in right at the bottom of the bear market. You put as much as you can in, and then you 3x, and then you get the benefit of the 43% on top of that. That's the gold standard win-win scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's better if you think about it. If even if Bitcoin goes down, if you're getting 43% more of something that's going down, it's still, it's effectively. Actually, I'm probably not allowed to say the financial word for it. So whatever the non-financial word for hedging your bets on a roulette table as an analogy or something. That's what you're doing. So
one quick question from me: how do you guarantee the 43%?
We don't. But we have a big disclaimer that says rewards could pause, reduce, cease at any time, just like you'd expect on anything really.
What defines the 43%, or what? Why that figure as an example? So
we picked the figure because we were comfortable with it. That's the bottom line. The last thing you want to do to someone is change, right? You don't want someone's coming into something and they've been shown that it's going to be this way. The last thing you want to do is change it. Of course, everyone would like it to change upwards, but I think everyone will just appreciate that if we picked a number that we hope we will never have to change because we've been kind of smart about it. Now I actually ended up getting into, it's actually been a pain in my ass, this 43%, because it's too high for too many people. Too many people think, it can't be that way. And instead, I was sort of holding our guns and saying, actually, we're comfortable with this number, and we shouldn't really apologize for it. But it's probably slowed down our growth just as much as the crypto markets. That enough people were like, oh, it can't be right. So it's another reason why we're bringing out the lending product, just because people want the user protections, but also because of the protections we put in place. Of course, we can't hit the same sort of reward rate, right? So we're just basically covering for the two types of people there. I mean, there's probably a third type of person, which is probably a few of us on the phone. We want 8,000 APY or something. But yeah, anyway.
Don't get me started.
Very good. And so the question, the second question from the beef was, when are the insured or safer Freeway vaults or investment options, when are they coming?
Well, we're very hopeful that we will be offering it as a sort of beta, where it won't be in our dashboard, but users will essentially be able to use it outside of the US. I'm hoping from Tuesday or Wednesday next week, with the various protections. They'll just get an email each day telling them what their sort of current position is, right until the dashboard is up and running with the new product towards the end of the month, or maybe the first week of October or something. But they'll be available from next week, which is very good for a lot of people, because a lot of people put their play money into the superchargers and been waiting for a product like this with the kind of protections to finally tease the funds out of their hardware wallets after the whole crypto summer being so terrible, and or the whole summer, the northern hemisphere summer being so terrible for the crypto markets. And too many people I know have their money locked in Celsius or lost it to Lunar Anchor and other things. So this is, as things settle down, I think this is the product that I think a lot of them wish that was available before. So we're pleased that we can bring it.
There's always, I suppose, an elephant in the room, but you guys are kind of meeting that head on. It's the first thing many people in our community are saying. What's fundamentally different from Freeway to people like Celsius?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is we're not relying on the crypto markets. We're certainly not lending to someone that could be liquidated in 3 Arrows Capital or whatever. Which obviously was a big cause of this, was the whole Anchor Luna thing. They lost a load of money and they lost everything, and then too many people had lent to those thinking it's a safe bet. It's we're not in that. We're not in that business. So we don't have to find someone to lend to that might lose the money. It's a big difference, and we stay in our lane, which is FX. We hedge to make sure that crypto, the crypto upside is something that we get. But at the same time, and with no leverage, by the way, and at the same time, we stick to essentially we stick to the US dollar. I mean, that's pretty much what we're doing. So in our own assets and revenues.
And in terms of the algo for the FX trading, is that your own intellectual property, or is that something you guys?
So we partnered with people that we've known for a long time, and essentially we're finalized. We have a deal to use it, ongoing, obviously, and refine it together and stuff. But the long-term plan is actually with our ecosystem, we want the users to actually own it as well. It's like great, we have a utility token, but we also allow the users to eventually to get equity. So publicly. So that's our plan anyway. So essentially, everything will come under the one roof in one big sort of overarching entity. I think like Apple, Inc. There'll be a Freeway Inc. where all the things come under eventually, once we've got all the approvals in place the next sort of 3 to 5 years, and then we'll go from there. But that's the sort of long-term plan. Is everyone's agreed that that's what we're doing. All the different people that essentially allow the ecosystem to exist as it is will all come under the one roof as we get there.
Okay, so just last one from me. So, if I can be quite brutal with this question, so is for you anyways, is the magic source and the revenue generation effectively derived from the algo in terms of its ability to trade? Is that essentially where the main revenue income comes from?
For Freeway, its main revenues, yes, are its trading revenues. It's a funny one. It's a combination, right? There's three pillars. One is, yes, you need a wealth creation. You think about it like a network. You've got a wealth creation node, which at the moment we have one very good one, but we will add others because that's only sensible. There is a user generation or user servicing piece, where users could actually access the ecosystem, which you could consider is Freeway, as it were. But there's also the regulatory side. So as things grow and as any industry changes, it will get regulated. It will get more and more regulated. So by partnering with a 23-year-old prime brokerage with lots and lots of regulation ready and working to get lots around the world, we have the sort of three pillars that make this thing so strong and able to scale over time. And of course, all we're trying to do is we talk about, in our original light paper, we talked about network effects, keeping all the value, all the wealth in the ecosystem, not letting it leak out to all the fat cats like traditional finance does, removing margins and then putting it back into the ecosystem for the benefit of all users. That's going to make a fairer place, for financial services to thrive and of users to benefit from them. So that's the makeup of the ecosystem.
Very good. Yeah, great questions. Great questions, Apex. We're gonna do some quick fire now, Graham, because we're 42 minutes in, and we're gonna start running out of time. It sounds like you've got a great weekend ahead of you, so let's let you start enjoying it. This is a good question, actually, and probably I think secondhand you've already had some of the questions that I've been raising with one of your team. Can you explain the FWT token within Freeway, and also the locking, also the price action? Could you just give a summary of what is the purpose of that, and where do you see that going in the future?
Yeah, sure. So the ecosystems, we split the utility and the equity in the ecosystem, because you can't have a utility token that you can't have a utility token only for speculation, right? So for us, it was make sure you put out a token. We wanted to build a community, a loyal community that wanted the token and benefit from it. And the way that we built the utility into Freeway token is that when a Freeway user uses the Freeway token, as in they put it into the Freeway platform and stake it, it unlocks a lot of value, more value than if you just were to speculate on it. So it's actually built for users rather than speculators. That's the sort of big difference. Essentially what happens is, in our superchargers, you need to have pretty much, if you have more than 5% of the value of your Freeway account in Freeway token, it unlocks more benefits for you, more rewards. So in our superchargers, it gives you an extra 10% rewards per year, annual rewards per year. So if you get like a 20% base rate, and then if you've got more than 5% Freeway tokens in there, you'll move to 30%. It's quite significant. In the lending platform, in lending products, even better. Having more than 5% of your Freeway token actually doubles adds 50% to your reward rate. So on Bitcoin and Ether, it will go from 6 to 9%, and on stables, it will go from 10 to 15%. So really, it's there to unlock a lot of value for actual users, which is pretty good for compared to a lot of tokens that just seem to come out and disappear. So yeah, that's the main use case for Freeway token.
Very good. There's a lot of questions. I'm going to try and move
Okay, we'll go quick. One word answers only.
Yeah. So this is quite a complicated question. I'm not going to ask the big part of that. Watch me, nay. Apologies. I'm just going to ask. So, if you no longer want to hold on to a supercharger, how do you sell it? Nice, simple question.
Yeah, so it's a platform, you see. So it's a fully centralized platform. So you sell it back to Freeway, essentially. It's it's not a peer-to-peer platform. We wouldn't have got legal okay.
no taxes, and the lock-up period is dependent on the size of rewards. I think maximum is 30 days, isn't it? And
That's
minimum
right.
is 3 days. Is that correct?
I think there's a zero option on there.
Oh, is there? Okay, very
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I mean, it still
So
takes
you can
a day for
liquidate
you to get it.
instantly if you like.
Yeah, those good as 1 working day type thing.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, great. I think you answered this question already. There was a question about how you generate the rewards. Is it just from FX alone? That's correct, right?
Yeah, so legally I can't say exactly. So I have to keep the rewards of supercharges in supercharges when I say it, and the revenues of Freeway separate. I can't connect the two in a public forum. So you have to figure it out for yourself.
Very good. And so separate website for the US, KYC is needed, and are there any geographic restrictions?
There's a handful of them. I think there's like 18 countries that have some sort of sanctional problem with could have a problem with what we're doing. So we don't offer them there. But it's we've got like 159 users from 159 countries, so we're doing okay.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And how many active customers do you have at the moment?
A little over 5,000 active customers and about 20,000 more that have sort of been in the sidelines. I think they opened their account and then the crypto markets crashed. So there's another 20,000 we expected to do something. They all pass KYC and stuff, so it's just a matter of time before they use it.
Very good, very good. And this is a great question. One thing I love about the community, they take the future of MDB very seriously. So there's lots of questions around, and you've got MDB Plus, which is our 100% plus $1 stable backed asset. That's much safer than many of these many of the stable assets on the market. There's questions around what's the nature of the MDB Freeway relationship, and how can we get on a journey to exploring using something like MDB Plus as one of the options within Freeway?
Well, we will take a good look at it. From our perspective, it's you have a model which is cool. You figured out mathematically how to do well in both types of market conditions, or three types of market conditions. Bullish, bearish, and sideways chop. So good for you. We certainly tried to figure that out. That was really the basis of how we even constructed Freeway in the first place. Was how to really help users in no matter what's happening. So there's a definite sort of synergy there, and obviously we're very happy to help supercharge what you're doing wherever we can, and as we grow the relationship, I'm sure we'll figure out ways that we can do things. I think we mentioned this before. It's like take some baby steps together, and then you can take some sort of big strides together afterwards. As everyone gets comfortable, and you don't want something bad to happen to Freeway and have it tarnish your name, and it's the same way, right? So the other way. So it's just sort of. I think there's so many synergies, and everything we can do to help you continue that we can be helpful for. Why not? That's why we're here. I'm personally going to come in on this as well. Show a little conviction from my side, and so yeah, all good.
There you go. And there's a couple of people who've been asking, what else apart from an investment? Are you just taking our money, Graham? I suppose is kind of what people are saying. And actually, there's lots of marketing communication going out today. In fact, we've been working with the marketing team at Freeway this week, and there's a comms going out, I think, to all 5,000 of your holders, right? That MDB is invested. Graham's here. He's given up his time, and as he's just said, he's also making a personal investment into MDB. So no doubt we'll see him in the yacht club, living it up, and and look, in all seriousness, that is a. I think you go into any discussion between two organisations trying to understand how you both deliver value for your own investors, and there has to be a. Graham's getting value for his investors from this, and we're getting value for our investors from this, and then we use that as a foundation, and like Graham said, let's see how we can build on that.
Exactly. It's all good so far, and we're clearly capable of helping each other, and I'm sure that will continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, it's just you have to pick through. It's very difficult to keep a straight face on these AMAs because you have to pick through. Sensible questions and then things. And so one last question. Let's just stick with this. The final question before we kind of maybe leave Graham to maybe sum up and enjoy his weekend. Was how did Freeway and MDB cross paths? And that's a great question. It's through a couple of different avenues, really. The thanks, peasant. Again, people just put me off whilst I'm trying to talk in flow. Yeah, look, so kudos. Because I come from a commercial and sales background. I'm always a fan of anyone that shows high degrees of tenacity, and actually the business development team are very pushy from the Freeway side, which I'm sure Graham would be very happy to hear. And at the same time,
Good boys.
Yeah, exactly. We'd also been doing our own investigation independently because we know James. James has worked with the guys at Freeway. James is in the yacht club, by the way, Graham. So you'd see him in there.
Very good.
And James obviously a fantastic supporter of ours, and actually we talked to James a lot about investments and the good, the bad, and the ugly in private. And Freeway was one of the ones that he said really good things about. So it was on our radar already. So those two things coming together, we set up a conversation, and then it's my job to sell. Really, I'm talking to Graham's team, and I'm saying, okay, well, we've got cash, but at the same time, how can we make this bigger, and how can this be a little bit more attractive for both sides? And here we are. This is the result of it.
There you go. Very good. Very good. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant to have you, Graham. And I suppose the heads up as well is that I'm actually going to join you a week Tuesday on your side as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. We'll probably just do we'll do a Twitter space maybe, or just a typed one. I don't know. We'll see. Depends where I am. If it's noisy, I have to do a typed one. So
we've actually. I never knew they were a thing. We did an AMA with somebody, and it was a typed one. I'll be honest, the feedback wasn't great.
Okay, no worries. I have a unique ability to type slightly faster than I can think, so it's perfect for me sometimes. Especially if something, some other thing is distracting me, I've got time I can still do it, So, yeah, I understand. It's not everyone's got that. Some people are there with their two. I'm not saying you do, but some people are there with their two fingers, trying to type long answers. It doesn't work for 4-hour AMA with 3 questions. Isn't going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so I'm with Graham a week Tuesday, so there'll be an.
So I guess we'll do a Twitter space then or something. I don't know. Tony will sort that out with you, our CMA.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Was there anything that you, and Graham, thanks again for joining today, and we know you've got many big customers and many sort of big organisations that you work with, so appreciate you putting time into us. Anything that you want to close with?
No, thank you for having me on. Unfortunately, my weekend is not going to be as relaxing as perhaps many people on this on the call will be, because we've got this new product launching on Tuesday. So I'll be busy, but it's okay. And I hope everyone else enjoys their weekend.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming, Graham, and thanks Apex as well.
Hey, gentlemen. Nice
to meet you guys.
All right, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.